Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Seminar 3, which is about planning and financing for the future. Today I'm going to be chair for this session as Matthew's not here today, so I'll be chairing this session. And I'm Andrew Bright, and I'm from FERA Trust, and I'm a Service Quality Director. I'm also someone with lived experience of having a learning disability. So on the table to my left are our speakers for this afternoon. Andrea Moulding is a Corporate Fundraising Manager and Lead on Safe and Secure at FERA. Next to Andrea is Leanne, I can't pronounce this, Leanne Quirk. Leanne Quirk is Gifting Wills Coordinator at MENCAP. And next to Leanne is Gina Collins, and Gina is the Gift in Wills Assistant for MENCAP. So I'd like to welcome you to this seminar, and I'd like to invite Andrea to come up with me to do this presentation. Andrea? So today I'm going to talk to you about how I use my experience of having a learning disability to help FERA provide a service that we support to people. So I'm Andrew Bright and Andrea, and we're going to talk to you about future planning and safe and secure. So the aims for our little bit of this seminar is to help you understand the importance of future planning for people, to arm you with the tools to help you start the planning process with people, and really to inspire you as Safe and Secure inspires me.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Can everyone hear me okay? Brilliant. I can't see if my glasses on or off, so you have to forgive me. We keep branding the word around, don't we, future planning. But what do we actually mean by the term future planning? Well, a future plan is a written summary. Oops. Okay. Thank you, Andrew. He's our technical assistant. A future plan is a written summary of everything you need to think about for your loved one. Okay, and if we look at the description up there, a future plan is a written summary of your plans for the social and financial well-being of your family member with a learning disability. Now, a lot of families out there will just go straight to a solicitor and think, right, I need a future plan. I'm going to go and see a solicitor straight away. But that's more about how you do it. Before you go and see a solicitor, you need to take a breath and actually think about all the things that are really, really important to your loved one or your relative. And you need to think, and I'll be talking about a book a little bit later on, but you need to think about what would a really, really good day look like for my loved one, and what would be the worst day ever. It's not all about finance, it's not all about wills and trusts. You need to think about, where is your relative going to live? What sort of people are going to be around your relative? Who do you want to surround them with in the future? Who do you want to be making the decisions in their life? Ideally, it should be them. They should be at the centre of any decisions that affect them. And then, obviously, finances and all that sort of thing. You need to take an overview and clarify your plan before you kind of rush down to the solicitor and spend loads of money. So that's where you start. Now, I want to talk a little bit... No, wrong one, Andrew. Andrew's getting ahead of himself. I want to talk a little bit around why future planning is so important. There's currently 70,000 people with a learning disability who live with their parents. And just like the rest of us, very few have made a will or thought about the future. It always seems in the distance, and there's lots and lots of reasons for that. But when somebody who looks after someone with a learning disability dies or goes into hospital, that person with a learning disability tends to get a crisis response. They could be taken into inappropriate accommodation or bounced around. It's really not what you want. So on top of the kind of grieving process, people are actually, being put places that they perhaps don't want to be. And we've worked with lots and lots of people with a learning disability. FERA support over 1,000 people across the UK. And a common theme that keeps coming up time and time again with the families that we work with is they're really worried about what's going to happen to their loved one when they're no longer there to look after them. And because of this, we've created a book called Safe and Secure, which is a resource. It's a free resource, and we've left a load of copies on reception. There's 50 copies there, so by all means, grab a handful. It's completely free, and I'll talk about it more in more detail. But I want to show you a short video now, which will explain a little bit more about it. So I'm not entirely sure how to put the video on, so I'm hoping my technical assistant can do that for me. Yes.
So, give me 2 seconds to get it back and press left button.
Okay. So for the late arrivals, we're just talking about future planning, and this is a free resource that Thea have created. So I'm just going to show you a little video now.
Most people with a learning disability continue to live with their parents as they grow older, for up to 40 to 50 years. There are currently 70,000 adults with a learning disability living with their parents. Like most people, very few have done any future planning or written a will. If you care for someone with a learning disability, we know that you may feel anxious about what might happen to them if you go into hospital or are no longer around to look after them. Thea Trust has many years' experience in supporting people with a learning disability and is launching a new project for families called Safe and Secure. Safe and Secure is a book written by people who have experienced what you are feeling now. It will act as a manual to help you create a future plan and create a circle of support around your relative to make the plan happen. We will help you put a plan together so that your loved one continues to have a good life. We will make sure you have the understanding, tools and advice you need to make good decisions about wills, trusts, guardianship and housing. We know it can be hard to invite people into your lives, but we will help you to create an enduring, lifelong circle of support for your relative. They might be family members, friends or professionals. These people will develop a strong relationship with your relative. They also make a commitment to look after the person's well-being. They act as the engine room of your future plan and make sure your and your son or daughter's wishes are carried out. We know how frightening this process can seem, and sometimes it is difficult to talk about what may happen when you are no longer around. But this book will help you to take the first step to ensure your loved one has a safe and secure future. Because love is not always enough.
Okay, so we all know we need to start thinking about future planning, but it's very difficult to make that first step, and I hope today we can really encourage you to do that. So we need to think about what's stopping us. So I'm going to pass over to Andrew here, who's going to talk about perhaps what might be stopping us from taking that first step.
There's a big word that you can see called fear. So it seems really simple on paper to talk about these things, but we know how fearful people are about the fear of opening up about a situation, the fear of death, and the fear of making a mistake. I have a learning disability. My wife has a learning disability. I'm doing the Safe and Secure book with her. And it's a really hard thing to think about, opening up. We often have to share quite intimate details with people, with partners, with friends, with acquaintances, with professionals. Doesn't really feel very nice, and I don't like talking about the topic, but it's important to talk about it. It's important to think about what will happen to your loved one when you're no longer around. A lot of the time people are also afraid of being rejected. So a kind of the second fear is the fear of death. In our society, we don't talk about it, do we, really? However, if we confront it, it gives us power to be there. And it can be very hard, but the strength you get from others helps you go through what's happening. And then the fear of making a mistake. We're so worried about not getting it right that we don't even want to make a start on it. And this is the most common reason why people give for not doing a will. I've certainly had to redo my will now for my loved one to make sure that she's okay if anything happens to me. And but we know can actually change it to make it much better. And the emphasis is safe and secure book. It's the start of thinking about all of that.
Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, so Safe and Secure is written by people who've been in those shoes. So people who've got loved ones who've had to face the future and sit down and work out how to do a future plan. It's basically split up into 6 steps and has worksheets at the back of each section. So if you kind of work through all of those worksheets, you would have a future plan at the end of it. It's really, really easy to use. And as I say, the whole first chapter is all about fear and how they know what it's like to actually make it. So it's really, really practical, and it helps you focus your mind. So basically, Andrew, if you just want to very quickly talk about the way that the book's set up into 2 halves.
Thanks, Andrea. The book is really in 2 halves. It covers all the things that you need to think about, including wills, trusts, guardianship, and housing. It also really covers how to create a circle of support around your loved one, who can act then as the engine room for the future plan.
Thanks, Andrew. So I know that Mencap, our colleagues over there who are smiling at me, are going to talk in a minute in detail about wills and trusts. While the book contains stuff on that, I don't want to kind of duplicate anything. So what I'm going to talk about is circles of support, and we covered it a little bit in the video there. And I know a lot of you will be sitting there thinking, what's a circle? And wondering how you're going to make that happen. How do you go about inviting people into your life? So a circle, basically, it's a group of people who come together for 3 basic purposes: the safety, health, and well-being of your relative. And the person with a learning disability is at the centre of that circle. And a healthy circle is one where all members are in touch with each other, coordinating their involvement and staying on top of things. And they're united by bonds of friendship, love, and trust. So they're really about kind of making things happen as well. And what I'd like to do now is tell you a little bit and kind of tell you a little bit about a lady and her circle. So not all 2 circles are the same. So what's right for someone isn't going to be right for somebody else. And there's 2 people on the screen there. And I'd like to kind of quickly share their story with you, if I may. This is Pauline and Alison. Now, Pauline, this lady in the hat, she runs a carers group, and she rang me up, and she knew that we'd produced this book, and she said to me, would you be kind enough to give me a couple of copies? And I was actually virtually driving past her house. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll bring you a box, and you can use them in your carers group. So being the lovely lady that she was, she invited me in for a cup of tea, and we got talking for about 2 hours, actually. She was so enthusiastic about circles, it was fantastic. Now, Alison, that's her daughter, was in a shared bungalow, and she was extremely unhappy. And Pauline just didn't know where to turn. She was very, very worried about her daughter's mental health. She didn't feel she was getting support, and she was completely isolated. She was so stressed. And she actually had gone to a seminar run by someone where they were talking about circles. And just by chance, she started talking about her situation, and she was in a little group, and the little group said, actually, a circle would be ideal for your daughter. So she said it was the first time she actually recognised that she couldn't actually deal with everything by herself and she needed some help. And so she actually says, I've got a video, but we haven't got enough time to show you. She says she absolutely screwed her courage to the sticking plate, which I think is a quote from Shakespeare, and just said, right, I'm going to ask everybody. And she said, without fail, all of her long-term friends actually said they were happy to come and help Alison with her issue. So the circle, they set up a circle. Initially, they had a facilitator, which was one of the people that took part. The first circle met in 2006, and it's still going strong. The first thing they did was sort out Alison's housing situation and helped her with a transition into her own home. They continued to meet regularly. As I say, they used to have a facilitator, and now Alison chairs the whole meeting herself, and she loves it. She's really involved in it. She gets everybody around. They come into her home, and they sort out any issues she might be having, any problems. And Pauline says, you know, it used to always be mum. This is actually a quote from the video. It always used to be mum that she'd turn to. But now, because she's got this circle, she phones other people up. And she says it's an enormous relief. And the other people in the circle have become genuine friends as well. So she goes out and has fish and chips with people or goes into town with them. It's not mum dealing with everything by herself. And Pauline says it's made such an enormous difference to herself and Alison's lives. She now knows that, you know, she's getting on, obviously, like we all are, but she's actually very relieved because she knows that there's now a future plan for Alison if she was to die or to go into hospital. And she's actually withdrawing from the group completely now, so that if that does happen, which, you know, hopefully not soon, but, you know, if it will happen, then she knows that the group will be in a very good place to, you know, to put the future plan into action. So we call it, the circle is like the engine room of the future plan. So basically, that was just a very quick case study. So if we look at what a circle does, a circle monitors the services your relative receives. So they can check out they're getting the best possible service and their needs are being met. They can advocate on their behalf if they feel that their needs aren't being met. They're going to talk a little bit later about wills and trusts, and they can actually serve as an executor and a trustee when you set up a will. They can help make decisions, but remember the person with a learning disability is in the centre of that circle, so they're not being done to, they're part of that circle. They can respond in a crisis, so if Pauline was to go into hospital, she knows that circle would come together in time of crisis and put the plan into action. And they also solve problems. So a circle is part of a future plan, and we're encouraging people to try and help set them up. We know it's not easy, but there's lots of advice in the book on how to do that. So if I can quickly pass over to Andrew, who's going to just summarise.
Okay, thanks, Andrea. So future planning is really important for people. It can be really hard to get started, but it's important to take that very first step. Safe and Secure, as Andrea was saying, it's a free resource, it's a free book, really good book, that can help you complete a future plan for somebody, your loved one. We've got some events coming up which we call little launch events for Safe and Secure. We've run some really successful launches around the country, so we're doing it regionally. So this coming Thursday, the 1st of December, Andrew's going to have a very busy week. We're going to be launching Safe and Secure in Dorchester, in Dorset, at the Dorford Centre. And in the new year, in January 19th, we're going to be at Ipswich Hotel, which was formerly known as the Cameo Hotel. And we're going to be launching the book in Ipswich.
And if I can just say, sorry Andrew to interrupt you, at the events that we have workshops around circles, workshops around wills and trusts. So we'll be running them throughout the year, so just watch this space.
And so there are some contact details for you if you want to, if you're interested in a copy of the book, or maybe pick up a copy today, but you'd like more copies for people who you might be working with who might benefit. You've got email address for Safe and Secure, which is safeandsecure@fera.co.uk, or you can call 0300 303 1280, or you can go to fira.co.uk. Can I thank Andrea and for helping me with the presentation? Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gina Collins. I've got a learning disability. I've worked at MenCap for over 20 years. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. Well, I'm the first point of call for Wills and Trusts. It's my name you see floating around on most of the things we've provided today on our stand. I provide literature on wills and trusts for people with a learning disability. I handle most telephone calls, but if I don't know the answer, I'll pass you on to one of my colleagues who does. I'm very proud being part of MenCap, and I enjoy challenge and changing attitudes for people with learning disabilities. Please come say hi. We're on stand 16, and myself and Leanne and Natalie will be there to answer any questions you might have on Wills and Trusts. Apart from that, enjoy the rest of the day, and thank you for listening. And I'll pass you on to my colleague Leanne. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gina. So as Gina said, she's been at MenCap for about 20 years now, and that was her first time speaking in public. So I think she's done a really, really good job. So well done, Gina. So, okay, so my name is Leanne Quirk, and I work as the Gifts and Wills Coordinator at MenCap National Centre. I've been at MenCap for just over a year now, and I appreciate we haven't got an awful lot of time to go into detail today, but as Gina has mentioned, we have got a stand. If there are any specific questions that you do have about wills and trusts, please just come and see us. We'd be delighted to meet you and offer any information that we can. We are here to help. So, a little about MenCap. Why is this not? Let's have a look. Here we go. Lovely. So MenCap is the leading charity for learning disability, and as you may have seen from our recent campaign, Here I Am, we have really set ourselves such a higher standard of trying to change attitudes, and it's a huge challenge, but it's one that we embrace and one that we really, really enjoy doing. We provide support directly and indirectly to over 80,000 people a year, and we truly, truly believe here at MenCap that people with a learning disability deserve to live a life without any judgment and without any fear whatsoever. So, a little about the Wills and Trust service. The Wills and Trust service is a service that we offer for free. We offer information and advice on wills and trusts with regards to leaving money to somebody with a learning disability. Now, we're unique in the sense that MenCap are the only charity that offers a service like this for families with loved ones with learning disabilities. We do run approximately 40 to 50 seminars a year, and at those seminars, they're 2 hours long. We have a solicitor speak at the seminar, and the solicitor goes into a lot of detail about the importance of writing a will and setting up a trust to safeguard a child with a learning disability. So, if I move on to wills, can I just have a show of hands? Who here has written a will? Lovely, that's really nice. It's about 3/4 of you. Okay, so this is going to be really, really helpful. So, moving on to wills, it's very, very important to have a will. If you don't have a will, you have absolutely no control who your money goes to when you're no longer here. In a will, it gives you the opportunity to express your wishes, and within these wishes, it gives you the opportunity to leave gifts to family and friends, how you would want your child with a learning disability to be looked after, if there's money that you want to leave them, to set up a trust, what you would want that money to be spent on. Now, if you want to consider leaving a gift to charity, it lowers the inheritance tax that you pay. So if you leave at least 10% of your estate to charity, inheritance tax is lowered from 40% to 36%. Now, one of our locum solicitors that we work very, very closely with gave me a statistic, and it's all up there for you. I do appreciate it is slightly out of date, but if you think that that amount went to the government in inheritance tax as opposed to charities, it's pretty unbelievable. £3.8 billion went to the government. So that's quite a good figure to kind of remember and think, you know, if you are going to write a will and you are going to leave a gift to charity, you'd rather leave it to charity than the government, I'm sure. Yeah? Good. So, trusts. Does anybody know what a trust is? Has anybody heard of trusts? Lovely. Yes, a couple here. Lovely. So here at MenCap, we like to think of trusts as a special kind of piggy bank. Now, in this piggy bank, you can put money and assets that can be placed very securely and very safely into the trust. Now, by putting money into a trust, your child with learning disabilities is going to be safeguarded, as opposed to allowing them to inherit a large sum outright. I mean, what you've got to think is the child or the person with a learning disability is already going to be very, very vulnerable. They're going to have lost their parents or their carers. They're already under quite a lot of stress. The fact that they can then inherit quite a large sum and not understand how to handle it, not understand exactly what it means, having to deal with that can be very, very stressful and traumatic for the person with a learning disability. So if it goes into a trust, it's much easier for them to handle. One of the most important reasons to put money into a trust for a child with a learning disability is to protect their means-tested benefits. Parents and carers have probably worked extremely hard to fight for these mean-tested benefits and these support packages for the child with a learning disability. It can all be gone within a blink of an eye if the right provisions are not put in place, unfortunately, very, very sadly. And we do come across it more often than we'd like to. You've also got to think about the impact of change for the child with a learning disability. If they inherit anything above £16,000, that's enough to knock them out of their means-tested benefits. So the fact that they're already traumatised and very stressful, that they may have lost their parents or their loved ones or their carers, the support packages that they currently have are no longer there to support them. So it's all about the change and that transition period that's so, so important. So within a trust, the trust has to be run by trustees. So trustees run the trust and they decide how the money should be spent on the person with a learning disability. Now, they can do this through a letter of wishes that is left within somebody's will. So as I explained previously, in a letter of wishes, you would like to tell your trustees how you would want your money to be spent on your child with a learning disability, whether this is bike riding, if they like to go on certain holidays a year, if they like to go swimming, all that kind of stuff. So there are various different types of trusts out there. Your solicitor will be able to advise you on the best type of trust depending on your circumstances and what your family would be most suited for. And one thing to say is that it's very, very important to make sure that the solicitor you use is qualified in this area of law. So, for example, you wouldn't go to the eye doctor to have somebody look at your teeth. It's that kind of... Solicitors are very qualified, they're very, very helpful, but this is so complex and it's so, so important that it's done correctly, because if it's not, we're essentially talking about ruining somebody's life. So we really, really need to be careful of that. If you do not want to give anybody the responsibility of running a trust for your loved one, or if you don't think of anyone in mind, bearing in mind trustees are supposed to be people that you trust, hence the word, you may want to turn to a professional trust company. Now, we have the MenCap Trust Company. It's a subsidiary of MenCap, and they act as sole trustees. So what that means is they run the trust completely for the child with a learning disability. They are here with us today. We have some members of staff on our stand, so please come and say hello if there are any specific questions that you'd like to ask about the trust company. We also today have a list of 2017 seminars with us, so that gives you the dates and locations. So if anybody is thinking about setting up a trust or writing a will, please come and see us. We've got those lists there for you, and you're able to book on today pretty much, so that would be really helpful as well. One last thing, special piggy bank, lovely. So I've got a video to show you, and it's pretty much, it's a lawyer who has gone through Mencat Wills and Trust Service. She's written a will and she's now set up a trust for her son who has a learning disability. And what she does is she explains the relief that she feels through doing so. It's very powerful. I always get a little bit of dust in my eyes after I do watch the video, so I hope you enjoy it, and I'm going to share it to you now. And you're going to help me because you're very kind. Thank you.
I'm Jane, and I am a mum. I've got 3 children, and one of my children, James, my middle child, is 16 and he's severely disabled. He was born prematurely and has brain damage and has autism, cerebral palsy and epilepsy. He's very bright and funny and very loving. He will always need all his life to have somebody around. He will never really be able to be left alone day or night. When he was younger, I would say that life was taken up with the practical reality of looking after him. And the last thing you really want to do at all is face the ultimate question, which is what is going to happen when you're no longer here? Because that is unbearable and unthinkable and horrible. And to me, that was the ultimate nightmare bogeyman, and I couldn't look at it for a very long time. And then eventually, I think perhaps as the pain of James's disabilities in my head grew less because I came to accept them, I began to realise that protecting him always involved protecting him when I was no longer here. And I was helped tremendously in this by going to a seminar that Mencat held about wills and trusts, and listening, because although I'm a lawyer, I still didn't know this area of law because it's very specialised, and it didn't make any difference that I was a lawyer because I was still just as scared about thinking about it as anybody else would be. But once I'd gone to the seminar, it was a real watershed moment for me. Firstly, I understood what the issues were, and it wasn't complicated. In reality, it was quite simple. And I knew that I could get a solicitor to actually go ahead and do what we needed done. And I cannot emphasise enough the relief I feel, as if a burden has been taken off my shoulders. That's a cliche, but a weight has gone, my shoulders have risen. Now, all my children, in a way, are being looked after. The trustees hold the money, and they take the burden of deciding how it's spent for James. Obviously, they've taken into account representations from the siblings, but it's no longer their sole responsibility. And that is a massively important thing that we can also do for our other children after we're no longer here. One of the things I feel, having done this now, is ashamed of myself for not doing it a long time ago. My whole life is about protecting him and trying to keep him safe and as well looked after and cared for as possible. And I've realised that I put him at risk because if anything had happened to me and my husband, the inheritance we would have otherwise had from us would have just been used up. I mean, however much it was, he would have only been left with £60,000, which he was entitled to keep. But because he needs 24/7 care, the rest of his inheritance will just be eaten up in probably 6 months. Another thing I liked about the discretionary trust was that Andrew and I, my husband and I, have made a letter of wishes which we can review, which says in it what we would like the money in the trust to be used for. James loves going somewhere. Once a year in the summer we do that, and I would want that to continue. He also loves going on the beach, and so one piece of equipment which I've specified that I would want him to be able to have is a specialist beach wheelchair which the local authority will not provide. It's very important to his quality of life because he loves being outside. Obviously we can't protect James in every possible way when we're no longer here, but at least we can make sure that the money we leave him will not be swallowed up on his care fees, and that when he needs equipment, which I know is so hard to get from local authorities, he can actually have access to that, which will make his quality of life a lot better.
So that was Jane Recker. I hope you all enjoyed watching that. that is actually it from us now. As I said, we do have a stand here today, and we'd be delighted to meet you if you'd like to come and say hello. I know Gina's details did just pop up there, but we have got all of our details with us, so if you want to take anything away with you, please come and say hello. And I believe now it's time for some questions and answers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.